You're watching the Fantasy Rankings Report only on Fantasy Now Plus. Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Rankings Report. My name is Christopher Kurt, but you can call me Topher. Welcome to the... Oh, sorry. Screen just froze for a second and I did mentally too. Welcome to the show. You can call me Topher. This is my co-host, Michael Flores. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. We'll see how it goes. I know computers are giving us trouble today.
Yes. But we'll get it done. I'm not concerned. For those of you that are listening, I just made a very untrusting face in technology right now. On this show, Michael and I take expert rankings, put them into a consensus ranking, and talk about how experts are alike and how they are different. I focus on the wide receivers, and Michael is our running backs guy. I do want to bring up that the show is brought to you by Fantasy Now Plus and the Fins Talk Sports Network. You should subscribe to both. The links are in the channel description and episode description, all of the descriptions. You can find all of that. Okay. Michael, kick us off.
Absolutely. So, as we like to start every single one of our episodes, we're going to go with the ranking question of the day. So, in this segment, Topher and I, we ask each other questions about rankings in really any way, shape, or form. We can stick to our area of expertise, or we can just venture off and see how it goes. And I'm going to kind of do that this week. So I have about 5 players right now that are top 35 in fantasy points. I went ahead and put them into the notes so that way you don't have to try to remember these names I put off. But what I want you to do is I want you to take these five guys and rank them in order of where they are as far as fantasy points go. So it's every position right now. We got some quarterbacks, we got running back, we got tight end, we got wide receiver. So here are the 5 guys that I want you to rank. I got Josh Jacobs, Caleb Williams, Jalen Hurts, Keenan Allen, and Jake Ferguson.
Wow. I'm going to go Josh Jacobs is 1. Jake Ferguson is 2. Jalen Hurts 3. Keenan Allen 4. Caleb Williams 5.
Okay, so you're not completely off.
Okay.
They're pretty good. So Jalen Hurts is actually highest out of all of them. He's currently ranked 7.
That doesn't surprise me with the quarterback position, but I wanted to be a little juicy.
Absolutely. And I thought, all right, I'll throw him in there somewhere because at the start of the season, he wasn't really doing anything.
No.
And then kind of turned it on. So he's actually now 7th in fantasy points for PPR.
Okay.
Followed by Josh Jacobs, who's 22nd. Followed by Jake Ferguson, who's actually 24th.
Mm-hmm.
Keenan Allen is 30th. And Caleb Williams is 33rd.
So all I had was Jalen Hurts was in the wrong spot. There we go.
That's about it.
Yes.
Yeah. So not bad
I promise
at all.
I didn't look at the answers beforehand.
You're just good.
I have my moments. I will run with that. Okay. We're gonna go ahead and dive right into our 2 main segments of the show. Typically at this point, I will show you our Google Sheets that shows what websites we use, how we go through everything if you're watching visually. But when I tried to practice that earlier, it literally closed me out of the whole StreamYard platform. So that's very rude of it. Jamie said, "Hey, ladies, that is a very nice compliment. We appreciate it." And tuned in, JRS, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Before we get to our first segment, just a reminder that if you have not played an underdog before, new customers, you play with $5, you get $100 using the promo code FN Plus. Again, FN Plus, you spell out plus PLUS. I'm spelling that for Jamie Perogue because he can't spell to save his life because he's a Cleveland Browns fan. So, but we do know who he's loyal because if he's still a Cleveland Browns fan after even 5 seasons, let alone his lifetime, then there we are. Okay, we got quite the question right here. Wide receivers, 1, 2, 3, tight end, and flex spot. So who should I start? Okay. Obviously Jacobs and Taylor in your RB1 or 2 spots. For running backs, let's actually wide receivers, what we need to address first. Quentin Johnson, Deebo Samuel, Kayshon Boutte, Jordan Addison, Tez Johnson. Okay, so I'm actually going to address Tez Johnson later in the show, but if Deebo's healthy, I want to play him, even though Jaden Daniels is going to be out, because Terry McLaurin more than likely will be out. And then I'm going Jordan Addison for sure. He's been playing lights out. And then for the number 3, this is tough. What are you thinking? Who would you put as your wide receiver 3 here?
So again, like you said, it all depends on injuries. Because I'm thinking QJ's hurt again, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know if I would go him. I do like Deebo because Deebo is kind of your Swiss Army knife guy that you're either gonna let him run the ball a little bit, throw the ball around. But I do like Edison. I do like Tez. At that point, I might have to go Boutte for wide receiver 3 if Johnson is unavailable this week.
I do not see Johnson having an injury designation right now.
Okay, perfect. I heard a little thing about a possible ankle injury, so I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah, from what I'm seeing, but I could be wrong, might not have the most up-to-date information, but I don't see anything that's telling me that right now. So but that's a good point. Check on injuries. And then I'd lean I'd almost lean Boutte because of the matchup. I think they have a much clearer matchup. Who do they play again? I need to look at that. Kayshon Boutte plays Cleveland, so they're going to win. And Cleveland has been the 18th best matchup for wide receivers, so they're in the bottom half of, like, they allow less than over half the league, but again, Drake May is playing out of his mind. Kayshon Boutte, if he gets more than 3 targets, he plays out of his mind. I'd put him in there. And then for my tight end, Ertz, Kittle, I'm playing Kittle. Like, that's a no-brainer. And then for your flex spot right here, you could either play Johnston, Johnson, Krosky Merritt. I wouldn't play against the Chiefs. Travion Henderson, no. Kyle Monangai, no. I wouldn't trust it. I would start whichever wide receiver you think you should sit. That's my thought. What would you say, Michael?
Yeah, I agree. I don't like Bill against the Chiefs. I am going to touch on Monangai a little later.
Ooh.
And Henderson hasn't really broken out of any kind of shell that I have thought he might have by now.
The amount of 0 or hero RB setups that I went into this season and took Henderson as my RB2. Oh, it has murdered some of my teams. Okay. Jamie did say, hey, I created a tribute song for the death of Roshan. He'll send it to me. I love that, Jamie. He's been the biggest Roshan stan out there. And again, just like his unwavering support for Cleveland, his support isn't always behind the strongest of things. Here we go. Flex question. Flex 1 point. Flex one of these half point PPR. Jordan Mason, T. Higgins, Jordan Addison, Yami Vidal, and George Kittle or Gadsden. Gadsden, whatever. I need to learn how to pronounce it. Also, have a good night. Thank you. I'm going either Higgins or Addison here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. He already has Kittle putting in his tight end. I'm going Higgins or Addison. I am talking Mason in a little bit, but not in that flex position over either one of those two guys.
Yeah, I'm going Addison or Higgins pretty easily. I almost lean Addison. I like what he's been doing. I don't know. I'm just a big fan of his talent. And that is coming from a Packers fan. So it is as honest as I can be. We are going on to the first part of our show where we talk about the steady and safe players. This is the part of the show where we each highlight 3 players in our positions of expertise that the consensus agrees upon. So I'm going to start off with my first wide receiver, Romeo Doubs. He's got a wide receiver. He's our wide receiver 26 right now. He's got a range of 4, which is a great range to have. Romeo Doubs over the past 3 weeks has had 8, 9, and 8 targets, had 5 or more receptions in all of those games, and has had 55 or more receiving yards. He had a touchdown game. Yeah. So what? Like, that was an incredible game, but that is not a repeat performance. But he's cementing himself as the number 1 target for Jordan Love. He's cementing himself as somebody that's going to walk away with 5 or 6 receptions each game, which is really good because Jordan Love right now, besides one game, and which was the Dallas game, he has not completed more than 19 passes in any of the other games this season. So Romeo Doubs is coming away with a 25 to a 33% reception share on the team. That's awesome. Steady and safe right there. They're playing Pittsburgh. It's, again, he's going to go to Romeo. That's how they're going to get yardage.
Yeah, fair. And Pittsburgh's the opposite of who they are known to be. They're known to have that great defense and okay offense, and it's pretty much been the opposite this year. So I do like that. My first guy, I hope this doesn't throw off ubiquitously too much with his last question, but one of my steady and safe guys I'm going with is Jordan Mason. Now, I'm not saying he's your flex guy, but he's your solid RB2 this week. And right now he's listed as RB20. He's got a range of 4. Now, he started off the season slow in his first 2 weeks, but ever since then, he has been very steady. You can count on him to get you the double-digit points. The only problem is he is going up against the Chargers this upcoming week, which tomorrow already. And they're giving up about 123.6 rushing yards per game. And they're averaging about 140 the last 3 games. Now, he's not a huge receiving back, and that's why I'm saying to not put him in that flex position. But on the contrary, he does have multiple receptions in at least half of his game. And right now, LA is giving up the 9th most receiving yards to running backs. They've already given up 30. Now, I wouldn't count that as your half PPR points there, but for an RB2 guy, I definitely trust him this week.
Yeah, I like that. RB2. And they just activated Aaron Jones off of IR. That doesn't mean he's going to play right away, but they've activated him. Ooh, speaking of somebody that could play week 8, talking about my steady and safe, which I don't think will affect it, but Christian Watson is looking to be playing week 8, which is crazy. Crazy to be thinking about, like, we didn't think that he'd be back until much later in the season. So I hope he stays healthy and is healthy. Kayshon Boutte is my wide receiver. Another steady and safe one. He's wide receiver 35, got a range of 6. He is playing under one of the most electric QBs in the league right now. When he has 5 or more targets, which has only happened twice on the season, he is getting over 90 yards and he's producing with it. Most of the other time he's getting 3-2 targets a game. Not everything great, but right at that wide receiver 36, that flex play can give you some boom bust with it. He's also scored 4 touchdowns on the season, which is really nice. They're playing Cleveland. Cleveland has been stopping the running game. Ramondre Stevenson keeps having this career resurgence. So he could do well, but they've shut down Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry. This team stopped players. I think that Kayshon Boutte is somebody safe to play. He's right now wide receiver 25 on the season.
That's pretty impressive. It's a lot higher than I anticipated, especially when he's having that really up and down right now.
Yes, he's had some very, very much up and down. I think those touchdowns are really helping him. Absolutely. And Jamie, booty, rocket everywhere.
Love it. My second steady and safe guy, I'm going to a backup, and that's a Tyler Allgeier. Right now, he's RB28.
Allgeier?
I looked it up, and he pronounced it Allgeier.
No way!
Yes.
Because I thought Algier was just, obviously, but the EIE, as somebody that has studied linguistics through choral music, welcome to my professional life, I thought Gier was just too easy. So
that's where I was going to go. And because of what happened a couple weeks ago, I made sure I watched a video of him pronouncing his name.
Good work. Look at you.
I'm trying here.
Proud of you.
Thanks. But he's at RB28. He's got a range of 6. But if you take out the NFL's ranking of him, his range is only 2. Ooh. NFL, I will always complain about. I don't understand their rankings, but they're the NFL, so they get to do what they want. And this guy is the epitome of an every other week guy. And this sets him up for that every other week. He's going up against Miami. Miami's giving up the most rushing yards in the league, including 161 on average in the last 3 weeks. He's the perfect plug guy for your bye week this week. I don't see him putting up small numbers, and if Miami continues to suck the way they're sucking, both Bijan and Allgeier is going to have that opportunity to feast.
Yeah, if this is a week where Tyler Allgeier is going to break out, this could be it. I'm also throwing money at Bijan Robinson to do everything. Especially because Michael Penix might not be playing. They might be going to Kirky because of an injury. So Bijan stomping that Dolphins running team. Sergio, I see you have a question right after this segment. We will answer it. Thank you for asking. Last wide receiver I want to talk about. This is somebody that I was surprised to be putting on here, but it is Xavier Legette, wide receiver 43 in our weekly rankings, has a range of 6 as injuries come up. As we have 6 teams on bye this week, our ranges, did you notice this? The ranges were bigger this week. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we have ranges of 1 or 2 in our steady and safe. This week, we both have one that's 4 and 2 of them have ranges of 6. It's a little more out there. Last week, Bryce Young went down with an injury. When Andy Dalton, the backup, came in, Xavier Legette accounted for 54 Andy Dalton's passing yards and had a 57% target share. 57% target share. Yes, was it a quarter and a half? Very small sample size, but there was an instant connection. Xavier Legette caught 9 balls on 11 targets in that game. Yes, was part of it because Teteroa McMillan was covered by Sauce Gardner and there's nothing else there? Yes. I do want to tell you, though, the Buffalo Bills have allowed 3 wide receivers this season to get over 140 receiving yards. Like, am I saying that about Legette? No. But they are prone to letting leaky plays get out, big plays get out, big target shares. Those guys had 7, 10, and 10 receptions and sneaky play. I think he could be a sneaky, safe play. I think connection with Andy Dalton is kind of there, and they're going to be playing from behind. They're going to have to pass.
I like that. My last guy, I'm going RJ Harvey. So he's RB30 in our rankings this week. He's got a range of 6. And again, if you were to take out the NFL, his range drops to 4. But he's giving you about 6 points a week. Doesn't sound amazing by any means. But if you're really trying hard to find that plug and play guy this week with all these bye weeks, this is really a week to do it. He's going up against Dallas. Dallas is constantly struggling. They've given up 3rd most rushing yards to their opponents and the most receiving yards to running back. And that's where his strong game is at. He has at least multiple receptions in at least 4 games. And if it's going to be the shootout that I expect this game to be, which I really do think it's going to be, expect the receptions to the running back. And that's going to be on both sides. I really do think RJ Harvey's going to see an opportunity where he's going to see about 4, maybe even 5 receptions this game alone.
Yeah, that's some very good insight right there. Because hearing RJ Harvey, he has not been anybody that you're super excited about. But
no, absolutely. And if you're in PPR, that's 4 or 5 points alone just on the receptions.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to answer Sergio's question here. For the flex position, pick 1: Jaylen Warren, DeAndre Swift, Khalil Shakir, or Ricky Pearsall. Stay away from Ricky Pearsall unless if he plays. I don't see him playing. He's probably not going to play. I'm going to tell you later in the show to stay away from Khalil Shakir. DeAndre Swift could be a good play. He's been doing pretty darn well lately. Jaylen Warren has as well. But the Packers have been, let me double check to make sure I'm not making this up, but I want to say the Packers have been pretty solid against the running game for fantasy purposes. Yes. So Packers are the 4th worst opponent for running backs right now. So it is the Los Angeles Rams, Cleveland Browns, Detroit Lions, Green Bay Packers are the worst 4 teams for running backs to play. I'm going process of elimination, DeAndre Swift. What about your thoughts, Michael?
I am 100% there with you. I'm going to talk Jaylen Warren in a little bit as well. It's like if everybody that's commenting is reading our notes right now, because we're either you or I are talking about at least one of every single question that we've gotten today.
Yeah. Hey, and that's great. I love it. And Jamie Perot, when talking about the Bills earlier, 2nd best versus the tight end. So don't play Jatavion Sanders. Boom. Okay. Let's get things going with the biggest part of our show, experts against experts. This is a part of the show where we each highlight 5 players in our positions of expertise that the consensus disagrees on. We will each talk about one from each of our tiers. For example, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to lead us off this week. with my wide receiver 1 tier guy. That is DK Metcalf of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's wide receiver 11 currently. He's got a range of 12. That's something that you don't see in your in your 1 tiers very often. Double digit range. He's got a range of 7 to 19. So people are in and out on him. He's currently wide receiver 17 and fantasy points per game. I like to do that rather than overall, because when you have somebody like Puka Nacua, who's been injured, or people on bye weeks, you can get a little slanted, a skewed view of, oh, DK Metcalf's had his bye, but other people haven't. So his overall is like 22, but points per game makes much more sense. He has only had 1 game this season with 5 receptions. Everything else has been lower than that. I want to talk about how this has slowly regressed over his career. Well, not slowly. It kind of fell off real quick. Last season, he only had 3 games of 5 or more receptions. 2023, 8 games. 2022, 12 games. 2021, 9 games. 2020, 8 games in his rookie season. 2019, 5 games. So he has gone from building up to this reception monster to lately, last year and going into this year, he's getting 3 to 4 receptions in a game. That is not helping you in your PPR leagues. He's got 38th most targets in the league, 38th most. So even though he's the only functioning wide receiver in Pittsburgh, he has less targets than Trey Tucker, Travis Hunter, and 10 less targets than Denver's Troy Franklin. So that's not fun. He also has 3 of 6 of his games that he's played with 50 yards or less. However, you don't see that sticking out as much on the fantasy stats because he's getting the points per game up there because he scored a touchdown in 4 out of 6 games. Currently, he leads his team with a 23% target share and has 46% of his team's air yards. Just reminding people of air yards, that is how far the ball is thrown. So 46% of all of the balls thrown by the Steelers, 46% of the yards are going to DK Metcalf. Those are both great things. 23% target share, 46% of the team's air yards. But if he's not getting his touchdowns, he's getting less than 50 yards or less in half of his games. Playing the Green Bay Packers this week, they have the 16th best matchup for wide receivers in fantasy for fantasy purposes, right in the middle. However, they've only allowed 6 wide receivers to get above 50 yards against them and only allowed 5 wide receiver touchdowns on the season. Those are relatively low. Those are relatively low things. They do get a lot of receptions against them, but that's not DK's game right now. They also have been leaky to the tight ends. They've allowed 5 touchdowns to the tight ends this season, including 4 of them in the last 3 games. Last week, the Steelers had 4 receiving touchdowns that went to tight ends. All 4 of them went to Steelers tight ends. Rodgers is going to want to show up. Rodgers is going to want to show out, just like he did last week with 280 plus yards, 4 touchdowns, looking pretty darn awesome. With DK being the only wide receiver there and them knowing that Packers are leaky against a tight end, especially against touchdowns, I'm hesitant with DK Metcalf. You start him. But I'm not expecting weekly amazing games from him. I'm not expecting that at all. You start him. It would be very hard to sit DK Metcalf. And I'm not expecting you to. But do you expect a wide receiver 1 performance, probably not this week.
Do you buy Aaron Rodgers' comments about this not really being a revenge game? Like, how is it not?
Well, because I could see that because he's already felt like he's had his revenge game before,
Fair.
but he's also has a much more viable team. And you aren't going to have we know that Rodgers is calculated. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
This is a revenge game. Absolutely.
Absolutely. He's going to show off for his ex. He's got to do
it. Well, his ex.
Yeah. Twice removed.
Yeah, twice removed.
So my first RB1 tier guy, I'm going Javonte Williams. RB7, he's got a range of 7. More than half his games, he's floating right around 20 fantasy points. And speaking of revenge games, who does not love a good revenge game? While Denver is only allowing about 93.3 rushing yards a game, they are allowing the 5th most receiving yards a game to the running backs. He only has 2 games this year where he only had 1 catch, and all of the others he's had at least 2 or more, including 2 separate games where he's had at least 5, and then 1 game where he's had at least 6. As I mentioned earlier, I kind of think this game is going to end up being a shootout, and I don't expect that the running backs to stop being involved because of it. Even if the run game stops, I'm really expecting just flat out just dump it to your running back. And this is another game where another side of the ball where I'm seeing the running back getting 4 or 5 receptions again. So whether you're going Denver or you're going Dallas, the running backs are going to be heavily involved in this passing game. And while Javonte Williams might not be able to rush for many yards this week, I am still fully expecting him to get close to those 20 fantasy points, especially with his receiving yards and his receptions.
Yeah. He's been such a surprise this year. I know everybody's talking about it, but that's what he was supposed to be in Denver.
Yeah.
And now he's in Dallas and he's doing it. It's a little crazy, but I think you've made some very solid points. We do have a couple things. Zappa said I traded Danny Dimes and Rico Dowdle for Kyren. Did I win the trade, to be honest with you? No, not at all. You lost that majorly.
I don't want to say... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Kyren is not producing the way that he has been in the past 2 years. You're not getting a top 5 running back asset. Rico Dowdle right now has the 3rd most rushing yards in the league. And Danny Dimes is out of his mind. Kyren Williams is not playing better than Rico Dowdle right now. I would have said that. I almost would have kept Rico. I would have said keep Rico over Kyren if you had to cut one. I don't like saying that, but that's my thought. Michael?
Yeah, I don't want to exactly say that that was a troll job just because maybe he really did make that trade, but that is a really rough trade, dude. I am sorry. Mm-hmm. We're looking at Daniel Jones as currently a top 10 fantasy player right now. And then you're adding a top running back as well.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, dude, but that's a little rough.
It is. Yeah. Well, I will guarantee you that I will not feign honesty. I will be brutally honest. Sometimes my students don't like it. I'm a teacher, but then I remind them that I'm not there to be their friend. I'm there to build them up and tear them down simultaneously. Jamie just wants everybody to know that Rodgers is going to be so high on shrooms for that game. Yeah. Maybe after. I think he's going to try and be clear-headed. Okay. So Zappa commented, I have Caleb Williams as a QB and the Panthers coach doesn't want Rico as their starter at all. I think there's some sound logic with that. I also think that the Panthers have been winning games when Rico Dowdle is playing more. Rico Dowdle has pretty much won them 2 of their 3 or 4 wins. Are they 3-4 or 4-3? I need to remember, but 2 of their wins literally was because they rode Rico Dowdle into the sunset. Caleb Williams, good quarterback. I would have kept Danny Dimes. I would have traded away Caleb, but that's okay. That's, we all have to start somewhere with our fantasy football processes. I've been in leagues where somebody was making bad trades and a buddy and I made like a little trade questions. It was just like, you cannot trade unless if it goes through us first, so we can help guide you. And eventually it got better. We all need those things. So we're not mad at you. Well, that's not our league. It's not our game, our team, but we're here to help. So in the future, I would not listen to coach speak as much. Coaches say whatever they want. I wouldn't let that affect my fantasy game. Would you agree with that, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. Unless it's an owner and he's the owner of the Jets and all he does is just talk crap about his quarterback. But other than that, I would not let the coach convince me to do otherwise.
Yes, I'd agree. I would say that looking at statistics and trends are going to help you more. Yeah, thank you for asking that. Going on, I've slipped a couple ums in today. I'm getting worse with it. I need to stop myself. First episode of the show, I was an machine. I'm getting better at it. Zappa, okay, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again for asking and watching. My wide receiver 2 tier guy is Keenan Allen. He's wide receiver 20 on the week, ranked there. He's got a range of 11, highest of 14, lowest of 25. He's currently wide receiver 13 fantasy points per game and wide receiver 4 in targets, only behind Jamar Chase, Chris Olave, and Jackson Smith-Njigba. So he is elite tier target getter right now in the NFL. He's got a 25% target share on the team. Team's highest end zone target share with 38% and second most air yards on the team with 27% of it. 5 out of 7 games, he's had 55 plus yards. 6 out of 7 games, he's had 5 plus receptions. So already blown DK Metcalf out of the water in pretty much every single category, who is ranked 9 spots higher than him. However, weeks 4 through 6, he had less than 10 fantasy points per game in each of those games, not combined, weekly. He did bounce back last week. There is a big concern, though. Quentin Johnston right now is wide receiver 8 in fantasy points per game. Ladd McConkey is wide receiver 35 in fantasy points per game, but he's been a top 24 receiver the last 3 weeks. And Gadsden, their tight end, has exploded over the last 2 weeks. You don't know when or who's going to be the exploding person on this team right now. They have Vidal, but they don't have the Amari and Hampton run game that they want. Their passing game and options are elite right now. It's going to be hard pressed to find a better wide receiver tree. I don't think there is a better wide receiver trio in the league right now. But that does bring up concerns when you're playing fantasy football. Also, Minnesota is the 4th worst matchup for wide receivers, even after being devoured by A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith last week. So even after that, they're still the 4th worst on per game average for the wide receiver. DK Metcalf and Rome Odunze are the only other 2 wide receivers to score over 8 half-point PPR scoring, 8 points against them. They're also really tough against the tight end. Tight end numbers, they were having 18 yards receiving, 12 yards receiving, 29 yards receiving, and that's where things were capping out again. One of them should have a good game, maybe 2. Not all 4 of these people in Los Angeles. All 3 of the Los Angeles Chargers wide receivers are in the wide receiver 2 ranking. They're all within our top 24. They're all not going to finish there. So Keenan Allen, he could be great. He could be a dud. It's scary. It's scary. You want to start him. You want to start him. I you have to. There's no way you can't. Like, he's wide receiver 13 on the year in fantasy points per game. But you do receive more dud games from him than you do from your typical top 24 wide receivers.
I'm still so upset with myself that I sat AJ Brown this week again.
I did too.
I set my team and I ignored it, and then I looked back at my bench and could not believe it.
Yep, been there.
My next running back, and I think this was Sergio that had asked this question earlier. I'm going with Jaylen Warren. He's currently listed at RB16. He's got a range of 9. Now, he is consistently getting you points. There's only been one game this season where he's had under 13. So he is consistently getting your points. And he has at least 2 receptions every game. So he is at least getting looked at on that side as well. But as we mentioned earlier, this is going to be his most difficult matchup yet. He's going up against Green Bay, as you mentioned, and they're giving up the second least amount of rushing yards per game behind only Seattle. And they don't really give up any passing yards to running backs either. So they're really stopping every aspect of the running back game right now. And for me right now, Jaylen Warren, this is a boom or bust week for him. This game is really going to depend on whether or not he scores a touchdown. If he doesn't get a touchdown, I don't expect him to eclipse the double-digit points area at all this week. Now, call back to the points that he was getting all week. He has been doing everything that he's been doing without getting touchdowns. He has a single touchdown this year, and that's a receiving touchdown in week 1. If he doesn't get that touchdown this week, Green Bay is just going to feast on him. And I don't expect him to put up the numbers that he has been getting consistently all week, or all year, I should say, sorry. So back to Sergio's question, Jaylen Warren is not the guy I'm looking at this week. Even if he does get his touchdown in, cool, I'm not expecting more than that.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. And it's not because I'm a Packers fan. I genuinely believe that they are not a team you want to start a running back against. They just aren't. Wide receiver 3 tier for me is Khalil Shakir, who was also talked about earlier. He's currently wide receiver 27. He's got a range of 10 from wide receiver 25 to 35. However, he's wide receiver 42 in fantasy points per game and wide receiver 45 in targets on the season. He's got a 19% target share on the season with the Bills, which isn't awful. We're not looking for elite target share here in our wide receiver 3 tier. Keenan Allen has a higher target share than him. Not Keenan Allen, Keon Coleman. Sorry, Keon Coleman. If you've listened to the show before, I want to double check, but it was, why is my computer? It was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I went off on why you should not have Keenan Allen on your team. All of that fun stuff. Khalil Shakir is starting to creep into that zone. He has a 0% end zone target share, and he only has 11% of the team's air yards, which is 5th highest on the team. 75% of his yardage comes after the catch. So he's making plays, but his ADOT, his average depth of target, is around 7 yards. Not great, not all of that. This next stat is okay. I don't like this next step, but I got to be honest because I like Khalil Shakir, or I thought I did. Here is what Keon Coleman has this year: 24 receptions on 35 targets, 237 yards, 2 touchdowns. Shakir, 25 receptions on 34 targets, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns. Has 1 less target, 1 more reception, 31 more yards, and the same amount of touchdowns as Keon Coleman. Here's another stinger. Josh Palmer, their wide receiver 3, 14 receptions on 20 targets, 234 yards, 0 touchdowns. So they have 3 receivers that are between 230 and 270 yards. And that doesn't include Dalton Kincaid, who's been out of game, who has 20 receptions on 24 targets, 287 yards, leading the team, and 3 touchdowns. This is looking like the Green Bay Packers wide receiver room for fantasy purposes last year. It is not a good room for fantasy purposes. They do not have a wide receiver 1. They do not have someone that's going out and making things happen on the fantasy front. Khalil Shakir is in his 4th year and has only had 6 career games with 70 plus yards. His ceiling is capped. He's not going to produce. He's not going to give you a big game. He's not going to make your, it's not going to be like, oh, okay, I feel really good about this. He's not going to give you anything that's explosive that you want on your team. My Google Sheet is refreshing. I do want to talk about some of the other people in his tier. Romeo Doubs, much more consistent, has potential for breakout. DJ Moore, we know that he has potential for breakout. What about Matthew Golden? Or Alec Pierce, who was my wide receiver 5 tier last week and almost had 100 yards last week. No big deal. Or Kayshon Boutte, or Troy Franklin, all who have been mentioned on this podcast earlier today. And he's being ranked above all of them, besides Romeo Doubs. No, I'm sitting Khalil Shakir. I'm sitting him. Unless if I have to, it's a bad bye week. They're playing Carolina. Carolina's fair weather against the wide receivers. But actually, hold on. I lied. I was thinking of another team. They are 3rd worst for fantasy wide receivers. The 3rd worst. They are stomping on people. They've had 3 games where wide receivers have gone above 100 yards, but Stephon Diggs, Jalen Waddle, George.
Not sure if just lost Topher. He might have frozen out a little bit. But while he is getting that set back up, so apologize if you're still going, Topher, but I'm going to go ahead and jump in and go with my next running back. That's running back 3 tier. And I think Juan had mentioned this earlier, and he was asking about whether or not Monangai is a guy to start. And that's who I'm going to go ahead and talk about next. So Kyle Monangai, he's currently set at, oh, there he is. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Would you like to finish off your thought before I continue?
Oh, I was just going to say there have only been 3 players that the Carolina Panthers have allowed, 3 wide receivers that the Carolina Panthers have allowed more than 8.5 fantasy points per throughout the season. And Khalil Shakir is not going to get that.
Yeah, very fair. Actually, if I'm being honest, I'm kind of more upset about Keon Coleman because I have him in a couple dynasty leagues, and I'm just too scared to just drop him just yet because there's part of me that thinks that he's going to maybe do something.
Oh, I traded him this offseason with the hype. Just was like, oh, he's going to break out. I built him up and was like, nope, bye.
Well done. But as I was mentioning, Juan had mentioned asking about Kyle Monangai earlier. He's my RB3 tier guy. He's currently listed at RB33. He's got a range of 10. Most of that is actually dropping because of NFL. Otherwise, that'd be definitely in the single digits. But he is currently coming off the best week of his short career. Biggest positive on this whole thing is that they really trusted him this week. They gave him 45% of the snap count. And he ended up finishing the week as an RB12. He had 81 rushing yards, threw on 2 receptions with that, and he had a touchdown. But he is going up against the Ravens this week, which Ravens can be scary, but they are 26th in rushing yards allowed per game, and they're giving up about 134 per game. The thing about their defense, though, is they're constantly injured. You can see tweet after tweet of how many guys are out in every team, and the list for Baltimore is always so high. It's crazy. Right now, they have 6 guys on IR. Both their strong safeties are injured. Kyle Hamilton was limited in practice today. Their nickelback, Marlon Humphrey, guess what he did today? Didn't practice, that's for sure. So Monangai is an interesting person right now that you can possibly plug in. Now, if you are in a little bit of a deeper league where you are looking for something to be able to put in there, now Juan had quite a bit of options. Monangai's not going to be the guy that I'm like saying you have to go there. But if you're in a little bit more of a deeper league, I do like the idea of Monangai having a decent game this week. I'm just not convinced he's going to do what he did last week against the Saints.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think people are going to be kind of upset with Monangai because they're going to expect what he just did. Just like Gaston from the Chargers. Probably not going to do that again. Romeo Doubs getting 3 touchdowns in a game. Not going to do that. But that's when the steam picks up, is after those big things happen. So I think Monangai is a great stat. I think he eventually can take over that running back room, but it probably won't happen this year. But if Swift goes down, he's got that job. He's got it lock and key.
Definitely not Roshan. Sorry, Jamie.
I want to talk about wide receiver 4 tier. If you would have said I would be talking about this guy in any way, shape, or form, fantasy wise, even 3 weeks ago, I'd have been like, okay, you're drunk. Tez Johnson, wide receiver 38 of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. His range is 23. Now you might be 23. That's pretty big. Yes. But his highest is 27 and his lowest is 50. Some people have him ranked higher than Khalil Shakir. And I agree with those people. And I am one of those people. He's a clear wide receiver 2 for the Bucs right now. Evans is going to be down for most, if not all, the season. Chris Godwin getting hurt again. We don't know when he's going to come back. Baker Mayfield is in love with Tez Johnson. All 148 pounds of him. The last time I was 148 pounds, I was in 7th grade. And it's not just because I'm fat now. When I graduated high school, I was only 180 pounds. I was 6'3", 180 pounds. I was pretty darn thin. Tez Johnson is the same size as me in 7th grade, and he is crushing it out there. He's had a 40% end zone target share over the last 2 weeks and a 14% target share on the Bucs the last 2 weeks, which is 3rd highest on the team behind Egbuka and Cade Otton. The Saints are the 15th best wide receiver matchup. So again, right there with the Packers, right in the middle, they have allowed 8 touchdowns. Tez Johnson has gone back-to-back weeks scoring touchdowns. However, they have not allowed any receiver to get more than 100 yards or catch more than 5 balls. No one's gotten above 5 receptions or 100 yards this season. That's also something to think about with Egbuka. Kool-Aid McKinstry is kind of playing some really good football right now. However, even though that's the case, 7 wide receivers has scored 14.5 or more points against this Saints secondary. So even though they might not be getting all the yardage you want or any high receptions, they're still getting some higher yardage, 70s, 80s, and they're getting a touchdown or two. I think that Tez Johnson probably is a lock for another touchdown this week. The Bucs just got embarrassed last week. They're going to want to go roll on all cylinders. Baker Mayfield's going to do that. Plus, Bucky Irving's already been ruled out. Tez Johnson it is.
I like it. I like it a lot, actually. I am keeping an eye on him just because he's doing way more than I think anyone anticipated.
Yes.
Now, if you're listening every week or most weeks, right around this time now is right around where I usually have a guy that's a let's watch out for him kind of guy, especially with running backs. Once you get to the RB4, RB5, RB6 tiers, it gets a little bit more difficult on who's playing, who's not. And for my RB4 tier right now, I'm going Devin Neal. He's actually listed as RB46 with a range of 17. Now, don't get me wrong, he hasn't been playing. I think he has a total of 3 rushing attempts on the season, and 2 of those came in week 1. But Kendre Miller is done. He is tore his ACL. He is done. And don't get me wrong, he's still behind Alvin Kamara, but Alvin Kamara is not who he used to be. And he's 30 now, I believe. And in running back years, he's an old man. This year, he's had 5 games now already where he's rushed for under 50 yards. Last 3 weeks on average, he's only getting about 28 yards. If the Saints were smart, this is right around the time where you got to see what the rookies got. I'm not saying you're starting him over Kamara by any means, but see what the rookies got. Start letting him get some of those snap counts. Start letting him get some of those rushes and see if he is your future. Kamara's not going to be around forever. Who knows really how much longer he's going to be able to do this. So Devin Neal is my guy to watch for the rest of the year for the Saints.
I like it. There's a lot of hype coming about him being like the staff hasn't trusted Kendre Miller. His gameplay hasn't been great. He did show out this year. Kendre Miller was starting to show out, but this injury again, and he's been injured before. This could open up things for Devin Neal, who played at KU. And that's where I got my master. So whoop whoop. Sal. Someone tried to trade me, I'm guessing is what this says. Bucky Irving and Jacoby Myers for Cam Scatterboo. I'm 6-1 with Devon Achane, JT, Chuba Hubbard. They're trying to send you Bucky and Jacoby, and you send them Cam Scatterboo. Is that what you're reading, Michael?
That's how I'm seeing it. Yeah, I'm really impressed by that running back room, though.
Yeah, and if you can add Bucky Irving into that, I'm doing that. I think that at the end of the year, on a fantasy points per game basis, Bucky Irving, when he's back, is going to outscore Cam Scatterboo. So, and I don't love Jacoby Myers. Maybe you could try and get a different receiver or fiddle around with the trade a little bit. Or see if you can send him Chuba and something else, and then take Bucky Irving and then Jacoby Myers and just say, hey, I'll take the hit on wide receiver and I'll send you a better wide receiver. And then I will get the better running back and you take the hit on the running back. That could work out. Okay, wide receiver 5 tier. Real quick, I want to talk about Jalen Knoll, rookie of the Houston Texans. He's got a range of 22. First off, he's wide receiver 52. He's got a range of 22, 39 as his highest, 61 as his lowest. He has been not overly involved until last week when Christian Kirk was hurt and he took over in the slot. And then Nico Collins got hurt and started taking over more and more. Last week, he had 4 catches for 77 yards, and 3 of his catches went for 20-plus yards. Among slot receivers last week, he was first in yards per route run, first in ADOT, fourth in total targets, despite only playing 43% of the team snaps. So he was the top slot receiver essentially this past week and only played 43% of the time. Today, Nico Collins and Christian Kirk, neither of them practiced. He had 7 targets last week. Seahawks have allowed the most fantasy points over expected to the opposing slot receivers. I'm reading this from Matt FF Dynasty on the Twitters. It lines up perfectly for Jalen Noel's skill set. I think that if you're looking for that sneaky upside player, boom, this is the guy. I'm starting him over Khalil Shakir. I'm starting him over Keon Coleman. I'm starting him over multiple players. He's a flex. He could also be a starting wide receiver for you if you're plagued by bye week injuries. He also has skyrocketed to an 82% ownership share on Sleeper. And before that, it was, I believe, under 10. I'm not positive on that. Don't quote me, but I believe it was under 10. And now he's at 82% rostered. People are seeing it.
That's awesome. I like that. My last tier, full of a bunch of guys that don't really play much. So I really wanted to talk more so about what's happening in Minnesota either this week, maybe next week right away. But it doesn't take away from my Jordan Mason steady and safe today. But just to keep in mind for these upcoming weeks, Aaron Jones and Xavier Scott are on a lot of teams. Going into this week, they're both in the RB50 range, RB50 for Jones, RB55 for Scott. And this next couple weeks is going to be big for the Vikings backfield. As you had mentioned earlier, Jones is eligible to come off IR this week, which he was. Whether or not he's going to play is actually still up in the air. They have no idea if he's playing, which is crazy to me considering that's tomorrow. Now, hamstring on an aging veteran is nothing to mess around with. So even if he is ready to go back this week, and they say, yeah, he's going to play, I don't expect him to immediately go in and take the spot back. He might see some playing time just to ease him back, but I don't anticipate it being a very big push to take Jordan Mason's steady and safe spot. Now, Xavier Scott's also questionable. He might not be playing. He's got a wrist injury now. So I still want you to stick with Jordan Mason this week, but it's time to start thinking about what your running back team's going to look like if you do have the Jordan Mason or you have Aaron Jones going on, because Aaron Jones can probably start really playing as soon as next week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is something to monitor and watch for, especially with who knows what's going on at the quarterback position. Yes, they have great assets right there, but they might want to feel more comfortable on the ground in some of these games. I don't blame them. Boom. Thank you, everyone, for listening, for being a part of our show. Thank you for Jamie Pirogue for always commenting 20,000 times. We love it. We enjoy it. We might not say everything that he's posting or show it on the screen, but we are certainly giggling at it in our minds while we're talking about stuff. Thank you for anybody that is asking questions. Always feel free to ask us questions. You can find me at TopherK44 on both Twitter, Blue Sky, Michael M. Flores.
Close. MP Flores 90.
Okay, MP Flores. I knew I was messing something up. Yeah. MP Flores 90 on both of those as well. Do you have anything before we head out?
No, just appreciate all the questions and please keep them coming.
Absolutely. Good luck this week and deuces.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you watch or listen to podcasts. We'll be back next week for more ways to win your league.